Thanks for taking the time to sit and talk with me and uLaw practice in general. It's a real pleasure to speak with you. And I guess we could get right into it. If that's okay with you, it's up to you.
Yeah, it's fine. I just want to say right off the bat before we start, so far I love the product. I love the customer service. I have never before done this kind of thing where I champion a product that I am getting absolutely nothing for. I'm an unofficial spokesperson, basically. And I've been telling all my friends that are in law to get your product because it's just that good. We'll explain why I believe it is that good.
Yeah, so I guess the best way to start, I'm very honored to hear that. We've been working on this for a very long time, and all the features that we create are all very specific to Canadian legal practitioners, and that's primarily who we serve. Yeah, so so I guess I'll just start by asking you to introduce yourself, your name, your involvement in Canadian law, and your work background and areas of specialization that you currently have.
Okay, sure. So my name is Attila Jantsek. I specialize in criminal defense and personal injury law. And I've been operating my own firm for about 6 months now.
Okay. And to what extent do you find that it's important to be aware of the type of work that's undertaken by lawyers in terms of like their clerical work and bookkeeping and just the actual business part of running a legal business? How should legal practitioner manage these obligations?
So especially as an entrepreneur, it's very easy to forget about the back end. When you're training to be a lawyer, when you want to be a lawyer, you focus on case law, going to court, going to mediation, and just being fantastic and being the best lawyer you can be. And you don't really consider the back end, which is the accounting, the intake, the basic admin tasks. And that's where uLaw has really helped me into really focusing on the stuff I need to focus on so I can be a good lawyer, so I can focus on the court, on the trial, on the cases, whereas making the admin and the back end stuff much simpler for me to actually complete and be compliant.
So what about uLaw makes it such that you're able to focus on those back end kind of business components in comparison to another style of record keeping that you would ultimately have to be doing in order to be a practitioner?
Well, there are multiple examples of what I like, but one of them, for example, is even for billing. I can use the uLaw app when I make phone calls, and the billing goes right into the program. Whenever I do any kind of work, I can use the timer and it goes right in the program. And at the end of the month, it makes it easier to calculate how much I worked and what I'm charging clients. So it helps in that end. It also helps in the very beginning with client intake. All the pre-filled documents you have made my client intake process extremely streamlined and honestly very quick.
Thank you. I'm wondering if you could comment on the current, like you've been in practice for 6 months now?
Yes.
Okay. And prior to that, were you at school or were you working in another firm or?
So originally I was with the LPP program with Ryerson, and I did my placement at a firm called P&M Personal Injury Law, and I worked with them for a while. And then COVID hit, and when COVID happened, basically everybody was sent home. All my friends, wherever they were working, were sent home. And it was very difficult for a junior lawyer to get started anywhere because everybody closed their doors. Nobody wanted a junior lawyer on their team. And so I thought about opening my own law firm, and I've been lucky enough to actually find success in it. But I owe a lot of that actually to uLaw, to making my life easier as an entrepreneur, because all the documents I would have had to have made myself, the bookkeeping, the intake, everything else, that would have taken up a lot of my time, and I don't have to deal with any of that. It's already there for me. So it's made my life very simple.
And it's very great to hear that you've been able to bounce into private practice as a junior lawyer so effectively, and it's great to hear that we're part of that. It really is an honor.
Actually, to the extent that it was quick, it went from I opened my own firm in December and I was in court in February. So it was less than 3 months going from student to, okay, I now have a client and I'm in court representing them.
So that's really quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's very, very quick to be in court that quickly. Yeah. So you not too recently, you were at school at Ryerson, and I'm curious if you could comment on your experiences with legal education in terms of how it prepares the next generation of legal practitioners. So like, for example, I know that a lot of people studying law, I've studied a fair bit of law myself, although only in a minor for an undergrad. That's not like my huge special area of specialization, but of course you're spending a lot of time studying with jurisprudence, case law, all of these different lines of reasoning that are what comprise what our common law system is. So I'm curious how you find your legal education, and then when you compare that with real world sort of tangible tactile things that must be done as a practitioner. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on that, because it seems like it's a relatively recent process.
So that's actually a three-part answer. First, in terms of legal education in Canada generally, the education focused is on research and case law and presenting argument. But generally speaking, it doesn't teach future lawyers enough about everything else they have to know, especially if they're going to open up their own law firm. It's not enough to be a good lawyer. You also have to be a part-time accountant, a part-time administrative manager. You have to do all kinds of things that are outside the scope of the law. And I feel like most of the education doesn't focus on that, if any of it. There's one caveat, that is Ryerson, the LPP, which actually did focus more on knowing more of the back end stuff, knowing everything from advertising to billing and accounting. We did cover that. So I was lucky enough to go to the LPP because I got to basically start off running, and I got to skip the whole walking part.
Yeah, I'm very happy to hear that, and I'm very interested in hearing from you in the future, like apart from this small interview that we're doing, because Ryerson's legal education program is relatively new, is it not?
It's only a few years old. They kept getting renewed, and honestly, it's fantastic. So it's a very different method of educating future lawyers. It's much more hands-on and practical.
Yeah, and I've been reading about that, like even since its inception, when they were trying to get approved for it. One of the things that struck me as a spokesman for this company was how exciting it was for me to hear that at Ryerson, just some of the quotes of, I don't know if it was the dean or somebody, a program coordinator, said something along the lines of, we're not just going to be a law school, we're going to teach our lawyers the business side of law and the technical things as well. So that really struck me as an interesting thing.
Yeah, it was very different. Yeah. And honestly, it was a very thorough education. So it's one semester in class, one semester at a law firm practicing. But by the time you get to the placement portion, which would be articling traditionally, you already know how to do certain things that most law students wouldn't know coming out of law school. And I found that to be very interesting.
So what first brought you to uLaw practice, and how did you hear about us?
So when I set up my own practice, I began doing a lot of research. The one thing all lawyers are good at is research. And I quickly found out that there are a lot of products, but you're all competing for the same market space. And a lot of these products are A, they're not Canadian, so the majority are going to be American. B, they are very overpriced, especially for a new practitioner fresh out of law school. The pricing model many of these other companies have, it just prices out entrepreneurs. And C, finally, is ease of access. I've actually tried multiple of these programs, which I'm not going to name right now, but I have tried them. I have tried trials with them, and I ended up sticking with uLaw because of the ease of access.
I'm happy to hear that you've chosen uLaw. And where do you think uLaw fits in with just the legal industry in general in Canada, in terms of the types of what, I guess, sort of the way that the legal matters are, you work through, like, you're familiar with the product. So when you're processing a legal matter, there are certain things that are happening in the background that sort of corral you into being in compliance. And I'm kind of curious what you think, where you think uLaw fits in just in general for the legal industry.
To be quite honest, and this might be the biggest compliment I can give, I would, in an ideal world, I would have uLaw be a part of the standard for the legal industry in Canada. It would just not only streamline everything, but it keeps everything in compliance. So the actual program itself, when I look at it, it's telling me step by step what I should be sending out, which compliance documents. And especially in the very beginning, to have that right there in front of me, to go, oh, yes, I should send out this client intake with this wording. Or if I'm not going to represent somebody, I'll send them this email instead. Or even just getting the client's information, it keeps it extremely streamlined. And I can't speak for everybody, but I think if this was the standard, it would make everything go much smoother for a lot of lawyers. Also, it's paperless, which I can't complain. That's fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. It's great to hear you mention, how it forces people to be in compliance, and it sort of pops up and prompts you. That's a big motivator for our development team, and a big way that we've sort of, the entire ethos of uLaw practice was to take the Law Society's own guidelines on what they need to be doing, and then making it into the software so that if you're a user, of course, you're going to want to do all this stuff. So we'll be happy to hear
the little
that.
pop-ups you have in the bottom right corner, you have these little pop-ups of my billables, and I'm going to have to go through certain steps, and it reminds me of, oh yeah, I forgot, it's end of the month. I have to make sure my accounts are in order. So even the little pop-ups you have are fantastic. Just a reminder are fantastic, because I'm thinking of so many other things. I'm thinking on my end of going to trial, of advertising, of doing a bunch of things to make my firm successful and my clients happy. And then to have these reminders that you have to do ABC to be compliant are very helpful.
Thank you. Is there anything else that you feel we should add, or that you'd like to add for a interview with yourself about your experiences with uLaw practice?
One more thing I would like to add, and that's the customer service. I cannot rave about this enough. Whenever I had an issue, I can always contact somebody. They get back to me at a quite honestly ridiculous speed, and they help me almost immediately. So the customer service is fantastic. And then you also offer CPD courses for all your clients, and for free, which is amazing. So honestly, hats off to you guys.
Thank you so much. That would wrap up the entirety of the interview.